Hello and welcome. The title of the message today is God's Image. But let's begin by affirming together our opening statement. There is only one presence and one power in my life and the universe, God. And I invite you now just to take a deep breath with me. And then release, relaxing into this moment. We open ourselves to divine wisdom and understanding so that we may digest these ideas that are shared and find just what it is that we need in our life. And so it is. So, God's image. There are at least 17 places in the Bible where one of the characters, whether it's Jesus or Paul or Moses or one of the prophets, shares that all of humankind is created in the image of God. And what does that mean? And how is that going to affect our life, our spiritual growth? I'd like to begin by sharing one of the early passages that mentions this image. It's not the one that I normally read in Genesis 1. This is in Genesis chapter 5. And it's from verse 1, and I'm reading from the Lamsa translation. This is the book of the generations of Adam. And I'd like to point out here, Adam is not a person's name. In Aramaic, Adam means a living body of clay. There is the connotation in there of it being red, which brings out that living blood that's in us, that life energy. And that it's dirt, it's clay. So we are something that is material, that has the breath of life in it. It's not a person's name, and it doesn't have any gender associated with it. And I think that's has distorted our interpretation of Genesis and of the creation ever since it's been translated. So I'll begin again. This is the book of the generations of Adam. You could think of it as the living body of humankind. In the day that God created humankind, in the likeness of God, created, and it says he, him, but we should read that as it created them. Male and female, they created them. And God blessed them and called their name, their nature, Adam, in the day when they were created. You see, this Adam is living clay. In it flows the breath of life. And in Genesis 1, right at the very beginning of creation, God said, let there be light, and there was light. That's in Genesis 1 and verse 3. This word light is not a divine light, which would be Ra in Aramaic. It is Nu Ra, which is a reflection of divine light. Let there be a reflection of the divine light. God created living clay with breath, living. That is us, each one of us, and it's also the entire ongoing living creation that we experience each moment of each day. That's significant. And I'd like to share a couple of jokes that might help in understanding this. The first one. My wife told me that I was a hologram. I think she was projecting. So there's this idea that we live in a holographic universe. There is this huge image that we call God, that we call the Holy Trinity, divine mind, idea, and expression. And this image is everywhere reflected at all different scales. That's the idea of a holographic universe. We are that same reflection, each and every one of us. I'd like to share with you this icon that was drawn in Russia in the 1400s. And it's called the Trinity. And I'll just show you the picture of it now. And you can see there's 3 angels here, and they're gathered around this cup. And there's been people theorizing about what is that's in that cup. So I'll bring it a little closer and let you look at that cup. You see there's sort of a red dot there. This is a reproduction of the original. Now, in that cup, as they've looked closely at it with magnification, that red dot that's shown in this image is actually a spot of glue. In that cup was glued a small mirror. So we have these 3 angels, and each one is a symbol of one of the different aspects of the Trinity. And notice they're looking down there. They're looking down at the cup. And what are they seeing in this mirror? A reflection of themselves. I think that's significant as we talk about God's image. We are created in that image. We are God looking at themselves. We are God looking at itself. We are partaking in the one self-existent, the only thing that exists, consciousness, divine mind, divine idea. The second part of the Trinity is sometimes called the Son. It is the ongoing, you might think of it as propagation, as long as you don't come with that idea and think about that it's somehow separated from God. But it is this living aspect of divine principle. It is that image, but it's not a static image. It is constantly moving if it's experienced from a human perspective in time. But from a broader perspective, it's absolute and unchanging. And then the third aspect, that third angel, symbolizes the expression of God. And we are part of that. We are partaking in that, and everything that we experience in life is also that expression. Everything that is in our consciousness is a part of that image. And there's a lot of stuff in our consciousness. Some of it we're aware of. Some of it is lurking there in the shadow that we don't realize. We're not consciously aware that it's there, but yet it affects our behavior. We're talking about that a lot in our transformation class. These ideas of archetypes and different things that are going on in our consciousness, such as persona, the masks that we put on to show to different people in our lives. In certain situations, we might wear a different mask. All of these things are part of that same image. Everything that's happening around us, whether we think of it as good or bad, as a positive experience or a negative experience, it's all part of this same image, part of this same hologram that is the image of God. And that can be very difficult when we affirm that God is the good. But if we look back at Genesis and read further in chapter 1, we see that every time one of these periods that are called a day finishes, God says, and it was good. And at the very end, he said, it is very good. It's a human perspective. A perspective of separation that places judgment on what's going on around us and seeing some things as good and some things as bad. Our heart is not capable of these comparisons. From our heart, we look at oneness and we see the good. It is from this perspective of oneness that we are fully ripened. I want to share with you, I've got one more joke, but I want to share with you a Bible verse before we go to that joke. This is from the Gospel according to Matthew, and it's chapter 5 and verse 48. A very short verse. Therefore, become perfect just as your Father in heaven is perfect. This idea, perfect, this word that's translated as perfect, has much more of a connotation as fully ripened. When we realize our fully ripened self, we are bringing ourselves closer and closer to realizing the image of God that is within us. Our fully ripened self is that self that comes from our heart. It is that self of us that doesn't compare, that doesn't judge, but that knows the divinity of itself and knows the divinity of everything that is around us. It sees that reflection in the mirror of every person that we encounter. Remember the first joke. My wife told me I was a hologram. And I respond, she was just projecting. And that's what we're all doing. I would like to share with you the second joke now to help see this idea of projection maybe a little clearer. So this fella makes his transition and goes into the afterlife and experiences what we call heaven sometimes. And there in this place, he sees beauty all around him, joy, there's music that's just so pleasant. He sees people that he knew in his lifetime before his transition, people that he loved. And he's thoroughly enjoying this experience as he moves around through this realm and encounters new people, so many people that are just full of joy and happiness. But there's this one person that he begins to see over and over again. And every time he sees this person, he just thinks, what a Debbie Downer, how did this person get in here? They just seem to be so negative. And every time I see this same person, I become triggered. I don't feel so good anymore. And finally, since he's been seeing this person over and over again, and everybody else is so different than that, he finally just breaks down and asks one of the people there in this heaven about this one person, explaining how how everything is so nice, but there's this one person that I keep seeing over and over again who triggers me. Well, this other person there in this realm responds to him and says, there are these very special mirrors here in this place. Okay, that's the punchline. You're supposed to laugh there. But the idea is that he was seeing himself. This person that triggered him was that part of him. That is him. Inside everything about him. Not only the stuff that he's normally aware of, but all of that other stuff. But that's also part of that image. In the same way that the stuff we look around at us, in our experience, and it triggers us, or it makes us go into a judgment stage where we think, oh, that's so bad, that's so terrible. That's maybe even evil. But that's a result of our perspective. And he's seeing there in this beautiful, wonderful, joyous place something that is triggering him. And what is that something? It's his own reflection. We are God experiencing itself. This is so useful because it completely changes when we bring it to our consciousness. We can see what's going on around us in a different way. We can allow ourselves to see it as a reflection of ourselves, as a projection. What is it that I'm seeing out there that I need to see about myself? You see, it's a very special mirror. And Kingdom of Heaven is all around us all the time. It's within us and it's everywhere present. So we're just encountering these special mirrors in our life so that we can look at ourselves, so that we may move to being our fully ripened, perfect self. And you know what? It's already there. It's already there, and all we have to do is awaken to it. Realize that it's there and see it. So one more time, from the Gospel according to Matthew chapter 5 and verse 48. Therefore become fully ripened, just as the divine source, who is everywhere present and always alive, is also fully ripened, fully perfect. And so are you. And so is everyone you meet. I think that's the key to our joy in this world. Let us affirm together, before we go, our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever I am, God is. And isn't that the holographic universe? Aren't we that divinity expressing in every moment that image? The ongoing creation is happening through us, through everything that we see. I can look at everyone I meet and I can see that same divinity, that image of God. We call it the Christ in them. In the same way that Christ was in Jesus. But Jesus became fully ripened while he was living in his body. And we can do the same thing. Thank you so much.